Matthew, how did you find Carnivore?
So, a little bit of a long story. I'll try to condense it. Basically, I was watching YouTube one day in the middle of October of 2023, and I found a video by Lee Copus over at Kent Carnivore, and it was a small, chopped up version of an interview that Jordan Peterson had, where he was basically describing his experience with Lion Diet and how it cured his rheumatoid arthritis, and how he lost 7 pounds for 7 months every single month. And for whatever reason, that kind of struck a chord with me. Prior to that, my story kind of starts all the way back at the beginning. I've got a little bit of ADHD, some mild Tourette's. Luckily, it's not massive verbal; it's just like minor physical tics, so it's not too intrusive as far as that goes. I was always the kind of weird kid, the oddball, a little bit of a troublemaker growing up. Um, would always annoy kids and just act absurd, I guess, if you want to call it that. Um, then sometime around maybe 2013 or 2014, my parents decide, hey, we're going to lose weight. Mind you, they were both pretty big at that time. Neither of my parents were exactly physically fit at the time of my birth or for much of my very early childhood. But for about 2 or 3 years, um, they did your traditional cut your fat, switch to whole grain buns, low calorie, high activity, move a lot, eat a little. They had an ungodly amount of little workout tapes. Um, have you ever heard of HIIT, which is high intensity interval training, things like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they had a bunch of videos with that. They would work out for like an hour or two each day. One of the big ones that I remember from growing up was P90X. That if anyone watching this knows about P90X, then you that's pretty much the circle they were in for a number of years. Then they both lost weight. My dad looked, at least as far as I've ever seen him, the best he ever had when he did that, because he was relatively slender, and that's about the only time I've ever seen him at a reasonable weight. So then about 2015 happens, and my parents get a divorce. My dad moves away. I stay with my mom. Both of them kind of go back to their old habits. They don't work out as much as they used to during that time. So slowly the weight kept creeping back and back, and it just my dad got back to where he was. My mom, she managed to stave off most of the weight gain, maybe through just being self conscious about it or still keeping some of those habits maybe that I didn't see because I was a kid running around wanting to play and all that, and she had done some other things I can't tell you. Then about maybe 2017, um, a few things happened that year. One, I went to a psychologist and I was formally diagnosed with Tourette syndrome, and I was given a medicine called Gigadon. I don't exactly remember what the full name was, but I do remember that the shortened name was Gigadon. I took that for a number of years, slowly weaned off of it. I did notice that my demeanor changed quite a bit. So instead of being this rambunctious kid running around saying whatever's on his mind, I was a lot more reserved, quiet. Um, I want to say it matured me a little bit, but I know that's not what happened. It was probably just repression or something that caused something that was caused by the medicine.
More like a dulling effect.
Yeah, kind of like that. So then, after I got the meds and after I started taking all of that, my parents, specifically my mother and my stepfather, came across keto. Around that time is when it started to become trendy, either on Facebook or YouTube. So that was about that same year, 2017, 2018. And in accompaniment with that, I used to live in a neighborhood um, that had like a mile, 2 miles, lots of inclines and slopes and whatnot. So my mother and I would go running quite a bit. We'd run about a mile each night, 6 or 7 o'clock, right when the sun goes down. And around that time, before and after I had done a lot of like 5Ks and 10Ks. Um, I'm from North Carolina, and there's a thing in our state capital called the Krispy Kreme race. It takes place on North Carolina State University's campus. You start at the bell tower, you run 2.5 miles to the Raleigh location for the Krispy Kreme. There's three ways you could do it. You could do it as a challenge runner, you could do it as a casual runner, or you could do a no donuts and just run. For a challenger, you would run 2.5 miles, eat a dozen donuts, run 2.5 miles back. Some people have done that in as little as 26 minutes. I don't know how people do that. I'm having to bite my
A
tongue a little bit.
dozen.
Yeah, and then you have the casual runners. I was in that group. We'd run 2.5 miles, pick up our donuts, put it in our bags, or just carry it, and then run back. For us, our challenge was avoiding the pits of vomit, which was that was always the highlight of that was seeing who would hurl first. Um, then after that, stopped running. Then maybe 2019, 2020, as soon as the lockdowns hit, my parents stopped doing keto. I stopped running. Things got sedentary and a lot slower. So my weight slowly started to creep up. I did marching band all throughout high school and also all throughout college. Um, my high school was very competitive. We would compete in both local, regional, and national championships for a I don't exactly know what to call it, but it's called Bands of America or BOA. So it was very intense. We had 2 weeks of band camp in August. One of them was from 9 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and for one whole week, and then it was 9 o'clock to 9 o'clock the following week. So lots of marching, lots of being active. My percussion instructor, every time we messed up, we'd either have to do sit-ups, we'd have to sprint to something maybe 50 yards away, we'd do push-ups, all kinds of things. So I wasn't necessarily in bad shape, but after that, as soon as I got the opportunity to kind of sit down and just do nothing, I took it. So it slowly crept up. It got to about 200 maybe in 2021. Then I started a relationship that, whether you see it fortunately or unfortunately, did not last. But a lot of our dates for that year that we were together were trips to go to Dairy Queen to get a Blizzard. Um, and of course, being in the United States, it's not going to be as good as maybe they might offer in other countries. I know you're in Japan. I don't know if they have a better version of a Dairy Queen Blizzard or something like that.
Right. No, there's nothing. I mean, there's probably versions of that kind of thing, but yeah, probably not as, I would guess, not as many additives and stuff in there.
Yeah. So my favorite flavor, I think it was the brownie delight or something like that. They had little brownie bites and chocolate ice cream. It was delicious. I will say it was good. They did a good job. But by the tail end of that relationship, I was at my all time heaviest. I was 225 pounds.
How tall are you?
I'm about 5'9", like 5'9", 5'10", somewhere in there. There's a decimal. It's fluctuated, but 5'9" is a stable number. So I look at myself in the mirror. I've got a photo of myself from like a month prior to when I started losing weight. I'll try to ramble while I pull that up real quick. Um, it's this. Hopefully you can see it. That was me.
Oh, wow.
So that was me at about 221, 222. Um, so I looked at myself in the mirror. I stepped on the scale. I was appalled, and luckily enough, my mother was very supportive of me trying to lose weight, and I don't necessarily think she liked seeing me where I was, especially maybe because she was there once herself. Um, So she helped me. She hooked me up with one of those little exercise videos that she still had on a hard drive from almost a decade prior. Um, the specific program that I used was Insanity X or something like that. The guy that ran it, his name was Sean T. If that rings a bell to any of you guys, you're cultured, I guess. If not, then you're also cultured. So I did that. I do still remember, even to this day, when I was doing that. I remember one of them was doing push-ups on a set of dumbbells. So you would do one push-up, and then you would do one lateral raise with your hand directly over your head, put it back down, do another push-up, raise the other one, and keep going for like 2 minutes. And when I started, I couldn't do but like two or three, and by the end of it, like maybe 2 or 3 weeks, I noticed I could do more, and that was pretty exciting for me because I wasn't able to do many push-ups before that, and all of a sudden here I am doing this. Um, and then the way I ate was your traditional eat less calories, do more of this, that. So I think for breakfast, I was having bowls of oatmeal with some berries. For lunch, I was having a sandwich. And then for dinner, I was having portion controlled whatever we were eating. Um, it did work, as many relatively metabolically healthy people do when they go on your calorie restriction, calorie deficit thing. They lose weight. I lost weight. By February 12th, I don't know why I remember this date so specifically, but for whatever reason, uh, February 12th, I was 198 pounds. So from about December 12th to February 12th, so maybe 2 months, I went from 225 to 198. Kept creeping down over the next couple of months. Um, by this time, I was back in college. So for breakfast, I would have like sausage, eggs, maybe a biscuit at our cafeteria. For lunch, I would have a sub sandwich, like a 6-inch sub. They had one of those there. They were good. Actually, no, I got a 12-inch sub and I split it between lunch and dinner. So it was eggs, bacon, and biscuits for breakfast, and then a Italian sub for lunch and dinner. And I did that for the next 2 months. And around that same time, I started a new relationship with my now fiance. Um, she's incredible, by the way. She's doing this with me too, which is a hell of a morale boost. I got her on the train, I guess you could say. Um, her and I started, we'd go out on dates. We didn't go off campus very much, so we were kind of restricted to what we had there. Um, we had cookies, cakes, and whatnot, and we would go out. There's a Starbucks on location, and I was notorious enough with the staff that whenever I walked in, they knew to go ahead and put a chocolate chip cookie in the little oven warmer they had. Uh, there was a guy that worked there. I can't remember his name now, but he every time he would see me walk in, it's like chocolate chip cookie. I would nod my head. He would put in a chocolate chip cookie, and I would walk out of there a happy man. So did that. Then July and August comes around. I'm slowly creeping up a little bit of weight. I think my lowest around there was 185. That's where I am currently. But I was significantly leaner as far as my muscle mass goes. So I'm guessing most of my weight was still coming from residual fat. But I was still relatively slender ish. Um, waist size was about a 34. I could fit size 34 pants pretty comfortably. Um, then August comes around. I get kicked out of my house at the age of 19 because my mom doesn't like my fiance. Still don't know why, but I got kicked out. So I went to live with her. Um, her mom makes the best macaroni and cheese. And every night for dinner that I was there, every Saturday and Sunday, we'd come home, and there it would be a big old pot of mac and cheese. And of course, I would indulge, and I would keep eating it, keep eating it, keep eating it. Eventually, her and I both gained a little bit of weight. I'm not gonna tell anybody what she weighed because she would kill me. Even if I said she was 105, she'd still kill me. I don't know, but I got up to 215 once more, and that was about December, sometime around Christmas time. This is 2023 still. And I mentioned at the beginning of this that I discovered Carnivore sometime in October due to a Kent Carnivore video. So that was roughly October. I was sitting in the school's cafeteria eating junk and whatnot, and all of a sudden I come across this video that says I only ate meat, and this is what it did to me, or something like that. And I'd been listening to Jordan Peterson for a number of years already, so I was already familiar with his work, and at the time I thought he was pretty smart, but um, I don't know. He still is very smart. I won't say anything negative about him, but I heard him talking about that, and if he's talking about it, then there's probably something behind it. So then I keep looking on YouTube. I find Dr. Ken Berry, Dr. Sean Baker, Anthony Chafee, all of your traditional, uh, all your big names in the field. Then I come across Kerry Mann. The first one of his videos was like a 1 year or a 2 year thing. It was a video of his saying why I quit carnivore. And to this day, I watched it back then and I haven't touched the video. I don't exactly know why he did that because he's been doing it consistently. So maybe it's a little bit of clickbait. Um, which good job for him because it worked. He got several 100,000 subscribers. Um, so I watched some of his videos. Eventually, I came across your channel. I don't remember when. Started watching a lot of your interviews. By this time, I had slowly crept in the idea that, hey, I should be eating more meat and less of this. But I was still eating in a school cafeteria that was basically a buffet. So it would still have all of that stuff out, and it was a constant temptation. But I did start eating more meat by itself. And then March 20, March of 2024 came around, and sometime in the middle of that month, I decided, hey, I'm going to go to Walmart, pick up a dozen eggs. They've got burger patties at our buffet, and they've got little to-go trays. So I picked up like maybe 10 or 12 of those little burger patties they have. I don't know how many ounces they were, or how many grams or pounds, but I got a bunch of those, cooked up 6, 8 eggs, and took a whole tablespoon of butter. I refried the burgers. They were already cooked, well done, which I hate, but I dealt with it. So I recooked those in butter to get more fat. I cooked eggs for the fat. I added salt. Within the first 3 days, I lost 7 pounds of mostly water weight. And then over the next week, I lost another maybe 2 to 5 pounds, give or take, of what I would presume was fat. And I did that. And then after a week and a half, something came up. Maybe I went and I had a cookie, but the craving slowly crept back in and I stopped doing it. My weight stabilized somewhere around 198, 195, somewhere in there for the next several months. Um, then I decided one day, June 29th, last year, 2024, to start my carnivore journey. So that day, I started eating a dozen eggs a day and a pound of ground beef. Um, I would constantly hear my fiance's mother say to me, "You can't eat that many eggs," or "I can't believe you just ate a dozen eggs at a time," um, which astonished her. And for what that worked pretty well for me. The only problem was until from June 19th to December 27th, I would constantly cheat. So every 2, 3 weeks, I would be good. And then something would creep in and I'd have this, have that. I would get back on the train the next day. Sometimes, I think my shortest stint of being on carnivore, so to speak, was about 2 days. So I had 2 days in between cheating. So that happened over and over and over again. And then around Christmas and Thanksgiving, there were 2 solid weeks where I went completely off the rails. And then all of a sudden, on December 27th, I decided, hey, I'm going to go strict. Um, so I went strict. And since then, the only cheat meals I've had have been carnivore cheat meals. Like I've eaten a block, I ate a whole pound of Walmart sharp cheddar cheese in a day and did not did not like my weight the next day. And that happened a whole bunch, but it was never anything necessarily off carnivore. It was all animal products. I just ate too much dairy. That was my problem. So I'm trying to stave that off. Now, currently, I'm roughly 185, 188 pounds. Um, my acne has always been a problem. During my middle school year, about 2017, 18, I was on a medication. I don't remember what it was, but it essentially dried my skin out on my face, so my acne cleared up. So that happened. I remember being on boats and whatnot, and my family owned a pontoon boat for a couple of years, and we sold it due to lack of maintenance and lack of use during COVID. Um, I would get sunburnt intentionally on my back to try to dry out the skin to get rid of the zits, which worked to a certain extent, but still never treated the root cause of it. I didn't have any issues with inflammation or any serious diseases that were cured, but I do notice that I'm at least a little bit more cognitively there. Um, and my Tourette's, OCD, and ADHD and whatnot are a lot easier to manage. There's still a problem, but it's not overbearing to the point where I can't handle it necessarily.
That's interesting. So, when you say you're more there, um, one thing strikes me about my kind of what happened cognitively, and I'm interested if you can maybe elaborate more, if it's along the same lines or a bit different. Um, so for me, what it was almost like I was less emotional about things or less emotionally tied to things. But um, it, if you kind of describe it visually, it was like I was almost lifted outside my body and I could actually evaluate what I was doing a little bit better than I had before. Like everything was more impulsive or more emotional or whatever before, but I was able to kind of step back and I was thinking more before I did things.
Yeah. I will say I still struggle with impulsivity. It's always been that way. Uh, but after the initial rush of emotion is done, I'm able to kind of step back and think, hey, what are the ramifications if I do this? If I do this, what could potentially be a retaliatory response? What could this person do if I do this? And I guess you could say like I stepped back to see the bigger picture as opposed to seeing like maybe an hour or two after the fact. And that has definitely come in handy, especially when it comes up to like food temptation and whatnot. If I see a cookie, if I work at a grocery store as a cashier, and I love the smell of the bakery. If they put in a fresh thing of croissants in the oven, you can smell it through the whole store. It's amazing. But when I smell that, I'm able to step back, like you said, and think about, hey, what would the ramifications be if I did this? How far would I spiral, knowing that I'm a very addictive guy, and I would go hog wild if I had another bite of that.
That's interesting how you describe it as ramifications, because that considering the ramifications, because that's a really cool way of looking at it, you know? Like, because if I was to put it in terms of, if something frustrates you, or someone's made you irritated about something or whatever, you might fire off an email to them, or you might fire off a message to them and go blah 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 blah, and that's like the release to make you feel better. But then an hour later you might think, oh, why did I send that?
Yeah.
But now it's more like you might type that message, but then you won't send it. You'll sit back and consider, what are the ramifications if I press send? Oh no, I'm just going to delete it.
Yeah, I've done that a number of times. One email that I got, I ended up writing 2 or 3 pages of just rant, I guess. Never ended up sending it. Contemplated it multiple times, but I never ended up sending it. Um, Another thing that's helped me throughout this is exercise. As I mentioned earlier, I did a lot of like video workouts, which were like kind of segmented, follow along, like 45-minute hit workouts. In 2023, are you familiar with calisthenics or bodyweight training?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I picked that up as a habit off of a video. The video was entitled "The Proof Does 50 Pull-ups and 100 Push-ups in 5 minutes." It was on a channel by the name of That's Good Money, and seeing a just a random guy in the middle of New York City be able to do 50 pull-ups and 100 push-ups in, I think it was 4 minutes and 37 seconds, was insane to me. So I went on Amazon after trudging through YouTube tutorials and all that, got a pair of gymnastics rings and started training those. Got lazy, stopped, and then this past year I started picking it back up again. Um, I've It definitely gives you a bit of an outlet, especially when you have a lot of anger. As a guy, I've heard that like with women, talking about your emotions is good. It's fine. That's how they release it. But guys don't necessarily benefit in the same way. I've heard that it raises estrogen levels in males to talk about emotions, which only further accentuates the problem, due to the hormonal imbalance. How true that is, I don't know. Um, Feel free to yell at me in the comments section if I'm wrong about that. But the way I like to take out my anger or whatnot is I'll go to the gym, I'll hit a set, we got punching bags in this back room at our gym at the college. So I'll go in there, do some boxing. Something I started Monday. We're recording this on a Thursday, so this is day 4 of me doing this. I've done 50 pull-ups and 100 push-ups in a short amount of time as possible, and I'm going to keep doing that every single day. Currently, I'm at 12 minutes and 25 seconds as my fastest time. I started like 14 minutes 47. One incredible benefit, strictly linked to carnivore, is I don't get I won't say I don't get tired, but I don't feel sore. Like I'll when I'm in the set doing push-ups or doing pull-ups, my muscles hurt. They are sore, they are aching, they are screaming. Um, Whenever you do a whole lot of reps of anything, whatever weight you're working with, whether it's body weight or like a 10-pound dumbbell, if you do enough of it, your muscles will become fatigued enough to where it feels like you're lifting 2, 3, 5, maybe 10 times as much weight as what's actually being loaded. So they'll hurt during the set, but as soon as I get up and I walk out of the gym, I feel fine. I can contract my triceps or my chest or my back, my biceps. I've got really good muscle control, so I can twitch about every individual muscle you can that's not in a group. And I've noticed that it might hurt a little bit, but it's not like pins and needles everywhere. I can probably go maybe an hour and do the same thing.
And with that, Do you feel like since you've been carnivore, there's more of a more of a willingness to actually get in there and do that kind of exercise, or just do generally just do hard work?
Nope.
No?
No,
That hasn't changed?
I wasn't blessed with the hard work carnivore mentality necessarily. I'm still very much a procrastinating lazy guy through and through. I've always been that way. But um the only reason I've been able to do anything I do consistently, whether it's working out or doing homework, is either because I enjoy it or I know my life depends on it for the homework part of it. Um but I find the exercising fun, so I do it.
Right. And, like, thinking about things like homework and stuff, are you a kind of personality where you'll leave it until the last minute and then go, "Oh, I've gotta do this."
Yep. Always
Right,
have been.
right, right.
Panic's the best motivation for me.
Yeah, unless it's something you enjoy, and then
Yes.
you're happy to do it anytime.
Yeah. There
Yeah.
was a programming class that I had a year ago. Um, I don't I don't think I was on full carnivore by this time. Maybe I was like the partial with the breaks in between. I enjoyed doing that. It was horrible trying to debug my own code when it didn't do what I wanted it to do, but it was fun writing the programs. So it as long as I like doing it, I'll do it.
Yeah. So, does this feel like something you could stick with permanently?
Yes, it does.
Right. So what is your daily eating routine like?
So that very much depends on A, how much money I have, and B, what I have left over in the freezer. Right now, I'm doing maybe 2 pounds of beef and a whole stick of butter, and I coat everything in salt. I my some of my friends, and even whenever I stayed over with my grandparents for a day during the summer, when I was putting salt on my foods, they were saying that I would give them a heart attack with the amount of salt I put on the food. Um, but sometimes I'll eat chicken. I've got a an air fryer, so I'll throw some chicken thighs in the air fryer for 18 to 20 minutes at 400. Um, I'll have 6 to 8 chicken thighs. It's maybe 1.5 to 2 pounds, and then I'll still eat some burgers at the end of the day. I used to eat a lot of eggs. Like I said, last summer it was a dozen eggs and a pound of ground beef a day. Um, but I found for whatever reason that I don't like the texture of eggs. Like last summer, I would cook my egg whites. Like I'd crack all the eggs into the bowl or into the frying pan with the butter. I would let the whites cook. Then I would break all the yolks and scramble it all together and like barely cook it. And I used to love that, but for whatever reason, I don't like that anymore. So I've I've tried to get away from eggs because of that, strictly because of the taste. If I could enjoy them again, I would love to have eggs because they're a little bit cheaper than beef is, um, and they're a little bit more versatile. But as of right now, that's not on my plate. Bacon is another thing that I love. I always make sure that it's got zero carbs on the back of it. If it has like sugar cured or got nitrites, I'm not too worried about that per se. But like 85 to 90% of what I eat is all beef.
Nice. Is your fiance doing the same thing?
Yes, she's been doing it since maybe April or May of this year. I didn't notate it for her. I know I wrote down the exact dates when I cheated, when I started, and all of this stuff, and I've kept track of my stuff. I haven't kept track of hers. Neither is she. She is nowhere near as strict as I am. Sometimes when she goes home, she'll have like she'll take a bag of frozen green beans. She'll put some Parmesan cheese, some pads of butter, some salt, pepper, throw it in the oven, crisp it up. She it has the same kind of mouthfeel as French fries. So she'll eat those. She loves pickles. There's a brand. I don't know if it's an international brand or a like a U.S. national brand, or if it's a local thing. But there's this brand of pickles called Grillos, Grillo. They've got, as far as I can tell, the cleanest ingredients of any pickles, and she loves them. So she'll eat those. She eats a lot of bacon, a lot of eggs. Uh, Recently, she's been eating a pack of bacon a day and like 3 eggs and a little bit of beef.
So, what was her motivation to go over? Was it because you were nagging at her, "You should try this, you should try this," or was it because she saw your results, or
Um, my guess is it's the weight loss. She's I hope she doesn't kill me for saying this, but as same as me. When we were younger, we both had a little bit of some weight issues due to poor dietary patterns, and she's never exactly been. She's always been skinny, but she's never been as skinny as she wanted to, which was her biggest motivating factor. And she hasn't said that she's experienced anything else as far as mental clarity or any other health benefits, but she does it mostly um, for the weight management part of it. That's most of my why as well as weight management.
I think the thing is as well, once you start eating this way, is it you realize how easy it is to eat and how it doesn't have to take up your entire day thinking about what's the next snack, what's the next snack, where's the cookie, and all this kind of thing. So it becomes so easy, and it's just an out of the way thing now that you can get on with the rest of your life.
Yeah. Uh, I don't know if that's her reason. She hasn't mentioned anything like that. Um, I know that that's a big part of my thing. I like eating all of my meat all at once. So recently, I got a heated lunchbox off of Amazon. There was a YouTube channel I discovered in January, right as I started to go strict. The guy, I don't remember his name, but his YouTube channel is Life Less Ordinary. Much like Carrie Mann, he used to do a lot of other things on his channel. He would do review of like pool equipment and different things like that. And then December 2nd or something of the same month and whatnot, he started his journey. And he had a video on like his first month review where he talked about this heated lunchbox that he had and he took to work with him. So I got the same one he did, and I got one for my fiance as well. So I'll cook all of our food in the morning. It takes maybe an hour to an hour and a half after cleanup and whatnot, and then we're set for the rest of the day. I don't have to cook. Once everything's cleaned up, I just put it away. Um, Most of it's done in an air fryer and a stainless steel pan. So it's not the quickest thing because I'm having to cook her food and my food, which is in total like 3 to 3.5 pounds of meat. So it's not the quickest thing, but it's pretty easy.
Yeah, and then it's out of the way for the rest of the day, right? You're not thinking about it
Exactly.
again. Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Um, and have any of your friends kind of gone, "Oh, I wouldn't mind trying it."
Actually, yeah.
Oh,
There's a kid in I'm in marching band as well in college too, and a number of people have at the very least noticed, or maybe I've just been a blabbermouth and told everybody, "Hey, I'm doing carnivore. I'm only eating meat," things like that. Our drum major this year, who wasn't a drum major last year, on the bus, we were taking a trip down to Florida, uh, to Universal Studios in Orlando, and I was eating a burger or two or some kind of meat, and I took the bun off and whatnot. He was passing by me to get to the back of the bus where he was sitting at. He looked down at me and said, "Dude, you're such a carnivore." So that was funny. I still remember that. Then one of my other friends, he's in low brass this year. He decided to do carnivore for a little bit, and he was asking me about it during our band camp, which was beginning of August. He was like, "Hey, I'm doing this, trying it out." About a week later, he came back to me and he said, "Dude, I'm feeling amazing." Unfortunately, he did quit. He's a bit of a musclehead, not a full musclehead, but he's a gym bro. He said that he wasn't feeling the best. He was having a little bit of lightheadedness, so he stopped doing that. My guess is he wasn't eating enough salt, but by the time I told him that, he was like, "I'm already off it. I'm not going to do it again." But for the little time he did it, he said it was awesome. As far as I know, I haven't met anybody in person that I've motivated to do carnivore that I personally know. Now, over the summer, while I was working as a cashier, uh, obviously you get to talk to a lot of people. So as a cashier, I would look at people's carts and what they were putting on the conveyor belt as it was coming down to me. And a lot of the times it would be internal dialogue like, this is poison, that's poison, that's got glyphosate. No wonder your blood sugar is this high. You said you're a diabetic. Why am I scanning this for you? This should be illegal. A couple of people were receptive. I would talk to them, and then I'd get into one conversation to the next, and then that would lead to, hey, I'm doing only meat. And sometimes I would get a what? Other times I would get a that's not healthy. You shouldn't be doing that. And like a third of the time, I would get that's interesting. I remember there was one lady who I talked to who was buying food to start the vegan diet. And she was going to start it the next day. So luckily, I don't know if she followed through with it or whatnot. But I told her, hey, I'm going to write. I wrote down your channel and Dr. Ken Berry on a piece of receipt paper on the back. I said I wrote Dr. Ken Berry and No Carb Life on YouTube on the back of receipt paper, and I would hand that out to people. And I handed that to the lady, and she said, "Okay, I'll check that out." I don't know if she did. I don't know if she's vegan or if she's carnivore or if she's standard American diet, but that's none of my business now.
Wow, I'm just imagining a few things as, the scene there, is you're ringing up the things on the register, and, things are coming down the conveyor belt, and you're just like, "No, you don't need that, I'm gonna hide that. You don't need that, I'm gonna hide that."
Like a kid giving his peas to the dog under the table.
Right, yeah, Wow. So, assuming someone did come to you and say, "Okay, I'm willing to try it out. I'll give it 90 days."
Yeah.
Give me some tips. What would you recommend? Would you, like, say, just get started, or would you say go slowly?
I'm actually glad you asked that. I'm going to go on a bit of a tangent, then I'll get back to the point. I was on a Facebook group that I recently joined maybe 2 months ago. It's about like starting carnivore and different things like that. I responded today while I was getting ready to come home, and a notification popped up. It was a post posted 19 hours ago at the time of me viewing that, and it was asking, "Hey, I want to start. Any recommendations on how to start?" So now I'll get into what I would recommend because this is almost verbatim what I typed. So I would suggest. I know this is going to sound cliche, and you've probably heard it from 40 other people, at least on your channel in the past month. But if you're able to moderate uh, how much or what you can eat, try to wean into it. You'll have a much better time controlling your bowels. Your bile will be able to slowly upregulate as you eat more fat and decrease your carbohydrate and fiber and whatnot. If you have autoimmune issues and different things like that, let's say you've got diabetes, type 2 or type 1. I haven't looked too much into type 1, but I know type 2 is clinically reversible. If you've got weight management issues or different things like that, and you're not too worried about the keto flu, so to speak, or the bowels overrunning, I would say just hop straight into it. Um, Balls to the wall, cold turkey, whatever you want to call it. Just jump straight in. It might be a difficult 2 weeks getting over the cravings and whatnot, but it's going to be a lot easier than trying to down regulate addiction. It's like telling an alcoholic, hey, you can have a little bit of this, slowly decrease it. Eventually they're not going to like it, and they'll find a way to justify eating more because it's still within this limit. Maybe I just go back and I'll start again. I'll start weaning off again. No, if you're like that, you just need to jump straight into it. Okay. For what to eat, I would suggest in whatever you do a 4-to-1 keto. Or I got the term from keto. It's 4-to-1 keto. You do 4 times as many grams of fat as you do proteins. So it's and that's in just in grams. So I use this app called MyFitnessPal, and the calorie breakdown is like 90% fat, 10% proteins. It's basically just that. The easiest way is just eat more butter. I would focus on ruminant meats. If you like hunting, do game meat if you can. If not, go to Walmart, pick up some meat. I used to get these big 10-pound rolls of ground beef that they have at Walmart. I think they're produced by Cargill Foods. Um, they've also got boxes of pre-frozen, pre-formed beef patties. They're currently cheaper than any ground beef option I could get. So I'm eating a lot of those. Eggs are a good option. Bacon's a good option. Lots of butter, lots of salt. Drink about a gallon of water a day. You're good.
Nice. Yeah. For someone who's got an addictive personality, yeah, weaning down is not really an option, right? Like, I remember when I was a smoker and I was always talking to people about how I need to give up, and they would say, "Well, just have one less every day and you'll be fine." And it's like they like people who can moderate don't understand that's impossible, you know? So yeah, if you have an addictive type of personality, it's best just to go cold turkey. I agree. Um, so Matthew, if people want to reach out to you, do you have any social media?
I do. I recently just well, as of the 1st of August, I decided I was going to try to start a YouTube channel and whatnot. Still never got around to it, but I have all the accounts created. Um, I have a TikTok account, I have an Instagram account, I have an email and a YouTube channel, all by the same handle or name. It's called Carb Free Reps, and I got that because a lot of people in the like the bodybuilding or weightlifting or even calisthenics community believe that you need carbs to be able to lift and to gain muscle. So the idea was to prove that it could be done and that carbohydrates are not necessary to do high volume, high intensity training. So once again, that is carbfreereps at gmail.com. If you want to email me, you could find me at the same handle on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. I have no idea when I'm going to post anything, but if I do, it'll be there.
Okay, no worries. So I'll link to all of those in the show notes. Matthew, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for sitting through my rambling.